Mic check, mic check. What's going on, everyone? Happy Sunday. Sorry I didn't get the notification out on this one. It's been real busy here in Throp Media world. But had to get the live stream on this Sunday. Of course, I hope everyone is doing well in their respective homes. I know the Northeast is getting battered right now with the snow and the cold, so I hope you all are keeping warm. And to those coming in on the replay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we are actually going to be talking about reacting to, maybe collectively reacting to a video news report that came out last week on the affordability of, or maybe lack thereof affordability of young people being able to buy a home, particularly in Kingston. And, you know, I had my initial reaction, which I'm glad I didn't just come on here and just start going, because I think a lot of it is just, some of it is just like kind of ridiculous, and unrealistic is definitely a word I keep using over and over. And I'm glad I spoke with a few people before just coming out, but like my initial response is like the same, exactly the same. So we're going to go through the video today and see also what you all think, that's the thing I like about how this platform is. It's not necessarily only about my opinion and how I feel. I also learn so much from our community that we've built here together, and I'm very interested to see and hear what you all have to say. Somebody came up with an idea last week about having some sort of, call-in line, and this is like a perfect opportunity to do something of that nature. And at some point, we're going to figure that out, to have a live discussion, perhaps even live debates on these sort of topics at some point in time. But we're going to work with what we got right now, which is you all have the comment section. I have my mic and my camera, and we're going to have a great discussion on that. And just so you know, our sponsor for today's live stream is Suncoast Beach Club. We're going to talk a lot more about them later in the podcast, but they are doing a beautiful luxury development in St. Thomas, the first of its kind, just 15 minutes from Kingston. And I actually did a video with them this time last year at their ribbon cutting ceremony. But we're going to talk more about them, and I'm going to give you more information on that development if it's something that you're looking into getting into, investing in Jamaica, or perhaps this is your dream or retirement home. I think that is a perhaps great opportunity for you to possibly take advantage of. So Suncoast, more from Suncoast later. That's their website, suncoastbeachclub.com, and you can give them a call, give them a WhatsApp if you have any questions on what it takes and what the amenities are, what the size of these homes are. And it's 876-216-5454. So we are not going to waste any time. You know what? Let me say hello to some of you folks in the comments. I always love to hear where everybody's coming from, what city, what state, what country. I think that's very, very important. And I already got a lot of messages of people talking about, again, the bitter cold and all the snow in the Northeast, which sounds kind of crazy. I haven't even looked into it at all. So let's see. Cammie here. Hello. Thanks for jumping on. Mon Taylor, thanks. It's bloody cold here in London too. I hear you. And N says, hey, Throp, what's up? What's going on? Thanks for hopping on. Yikes. Sorry about cold and snowstorm. Tuning in from North Florida. Rainy now, excuse me. Donna Bryce, what's going on? Happy Sunday, Throp and Throppers from Ottawa, Canada, in the middle of a snowstorm. Ah, man, sorry to hear that. We don't have anything like that here. And please listen to Don, everybody. Hit that like button. It really does help out a ton. Anissa, what's going on? Jersey, it's winter. Normal stuff here. Mr. Brown, big up from Cayman. Good to have you all on, folks. Claudine, how you doing? Happy Sunday from Cali. Nice to have you on. And yeah, let's get right into it. So I'm going to bring on, hey, Cherie, I see you. Thanks for hopping on. What's going on, Chris? Checking in from Panama City, Panama. I know you got no snow to deal with down there either. Char Treehouse, happy Sunday, Throp and all. I left cold NYC, got on a plane to St. Lucia. Good for you. And Cammy's chiming in from South Florida. Blaze Works, greetings, Mr. Brethren, my brethren, 30s, rainy, cold in Dallas. Better than that Northeast snow, right? Search C. Smith, good to see you. All right, let's get this video up. Let me see if I can find it real quick. All right, got it. Okay, so I'll interrupt. I don't know if you've seen it. This is actually sent to me by one of you all. So thank you very much. You know who you are. I appreciate you. And I think this is very relevant to a lot of discussions that we've been having, interviews that I've had on this channel. And I want to preface this discussion that this is in particular talk about young people who are recent grads of college and the affordability of buying or purchasing a home, particularly in Kingston. And so that's the context of this. And Dion here will further build that context shortly. All right, let me know if you can hear.
Okay, so tell me something. Are you longing to own your own home, but you just can't see how it's ever going to happen? That's a whole lot of Jamaicans who are trying to own their own little piece of the rock, or maybe, I don't know, their own little piece of the air if we're talking about apartments. And that's our focus on this edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jackson Miller. Now, we're going to be hearing from young people. We're going to be hearing from realtors. We're going to be hearing from government agencies that are supposed to help to solve the housing crisis. But first, let's go to this report from Giovanni Dennis.
Roughly 10,000 students graduate from Jamaica's top 4 universities annually. The majority of graduates are young professionals like Lauren, who after finding a job, aspire to buy into one of the many apartment complexes now being built in Kingston.
There has been some in the Waterloo area that I've seen that's pretty decent. You know, they're pretty.
Pretty on the eyes, but also pretty costly. The average price of a 2-bedroom apartment jumped from $28 million 3 years ago to over $40 million.
All right, I just want to bring some U.S. prices in here so we're kind of on the same page in all angles. So 28 million, I'm doing a rate of 150. That is 186,000 US, call 187,000, and 40 million is 267,000 US dollars. All right. So, and again, context, we're talking, this is younger people, recent college graduates, young professionals. We are not talking about affordable housing or anything of that nature. And we're talking about prime real estate in Kingston.
A day on average. So I'm currently standing at 7 Devon Road in Kingston, just across the road from where the Halo luxury apartments will be. Construction is still underway. It's the dream of many young professionals to be able to afford somewhere like this, but the cost is prohibitive. Prices at the Halo complex range from 40 million for a 1-bedroom to 50 million for a 2-bedroom.
All right. So we already got the 40 million, which is a 267,000. 50 million is 333,000 US dollars. And mind you, the rate has gone up. So we're doing it at, let's call it worst case scenario situations here. So 330,000 US dollars for a 2-bedroom apartment, or 50 million Jamaican dollars.
Apartment. Lauren had this to say.
Hearing the prices kind of deter you from wanting to try. When you compare your basic salary to what it would be to acquire a home, it's kind of a turn off, I would say.
Other young professionals feel the same way. I met Brianna and Michael at the Devon House, a stone's throw away from the Halo complex.
Salary isn't high enough to try and get a house anytime soon. Even with a partner, it feels very difficult, as well as getting a mortgage. Like, just for something in the 30 mils, I'd be having to pay like 200K or more, depending on the deposit. And it feels impossible. That alone is more than my salary.
They mainly cater to persons who are of the higher echelon in terms of income, and they tend to buy these houses and then hold on to them. So the regular professional just coming in, they don't have the income to buy the house straight out. It causes a lot of people to feel like there's no chance of us in Jamaica as young professionals to earn enough to be able to own a home and escape renting.
The government has admitted that there is a housing crisis. A national housing needs assessment showed that Jamaica has to build 15,000 new units annually to keep up with demand from its growing population. But only about 11,000 new units are being built. The National Housing Trust, or NHT, which was established to make homeownership easier and more affordable, provides loans to first-time homeowners. $7.5 million Jamaican dollars is the maximum a single contributor can borrow from the trust, or up to $8.5 million if the unit is $12 million or less.
All right, so let's stick with the $7.5 million. This is coming from the NHT. So that is that's $50,000 that you are the equivalent of 50,000 US dollars that you have access to use towards your first home. And mind you, you have to be, if I still understand this correctly, you have to be contributing for at least to the NHT, that is, for at least 2 years to have access to those funds. So 50,000 US dollars is equivalent, for the example that we're using today, is equivalent to 7.5 million US dollars, 7.5 million Jamaican dollars, excuse me. And you have access to that after contributing, working for 2 years. So let's keep going here. Just trying to build context before we get into our discussion here.
The people we spoke with do not think that is enough.
Even after partnering with somebody, you'd have to take out an additional loan. And even after that, you'd have to go seek financial assistance somewhere else. Then I think there's more to be done and more can be done.
Realtor Winroy Williams says as long as the demand continues to outstrip supply, prices will continue to rise.
Demand is great, but to add to that, the cost of construction, the cost of labor, the cost of all the input into the final product. Now, is this justified? I'm not so sure if it's justified, but the fact is, prices are what they are.
Mr. Williams believes young professionals need to start approaching homeownership differently.
One, do what you can with what you have. If it means you had an idea to buy a 2-bedroom, 1 bath in Kingston, and based on the price, you cannot reach that price, one option, partner with somebody. That's one way. Another way, buy where the money affords you to buy.
In April 2024, the Prime Minister.
All right, a lot going on here. Let's pause for a second and just go through some of these factors that were what we just talked about in the report here. So I think there's going to be a further discussion with actually some young people we'll see in a second that are going to be in studio, and they're going to be talking about the same thing. And I'm sure some young people, some young professionals, some young Jamaicans will be watching this, and not by any means or any stretch of the imagination, am I trying to discourage anyone from achieving these goals and to live in these very nice places, and as it says, halo luxury apartments. And the sense that I got from this report or from this clip is just like, it's crazy to think that, and in my opinion, it's crazy for me to think that you coming out of university and having your first job, that you think you should be able to afford a luxury apartment in prime real estate in the capital of Jamaica. I think first and foremost, I think that's a ridiculous sentiment to have, to be in that position mentally, that you think you deserve that, and you should. And when I say deserve, because of course, you've done the right thing. You've gone to college. Hopefully, I'm sure you've done good grades. You get your first job, so on and so forth. But to come into the working world and the real world, that's just not the reality. Like, plain and simple, that's just not the reality. And like the realtor said, you should buy where you can afford. And I mean, there's just so many things that are going through my mind, and being have been a young person at one point in time, and just kind of starting out, and then also seeing my friends do the same thing. And granted, that's not here in Jamaica, but there are many parallels to be drawn of the young person's experience in Jamaica and the young professional person's experience here in Jamaica, and that of somebody in the United States or in New York, in my case. And so, again, to think that you should be able to afford your first job, to put down, let's say it's the $250,000, let's use that as a number, to be able to afford a $250,000 property based on your first salary, I think it's a ridiculous expectation. What's also being left out of this is, like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful, but of course we know different majors and colleges are going to give you different salaries coming out of school, right? It's just the reality. If you're a communications or art major and then you're coming into the working world compared to that of an accountant or somebody going into finance, we're night and day here. We're night and day here. So I think the context of these young people's professions is very, very important. And it should, in my opinion, it should have been taken into account in bringing this bringing this news report forward. And I'm just thinking back to, I've had two post-graduation experiences. I had my college graduation and my business school graduation experience. And when I look at my friends who got their first jobs coming out of college, let's say my direct college classmates, and I was a business major, and I studied finance, and those folks got paid more than the folks coming out with an art degree or a communications degree. There's just, and again, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but the market values those degrees very, very differently. And we also have to think about, even like, say, a doctor who's going to go to school for another 8 years after that. And when they finish, they're going to get paid a whole nother spectrum of money. And I remember, like, even my friend who's a doctor now, we graduated college, and a lot of people graduated college and they went into their first careers in tech, in finance, and so on and so forth. And they were making decent money. And my friend who is going through med school, then residency, he's still struggling. He's still struggling financially, and then also, like, mentally, and doing all this. He's like, why did I do this? Why did I do this? And I could have just studied finance and I could have been sitting pretty and all this and that. But now he's a doctor and he's doing very well for himself. He has his family, he has his kids, and kudos to him. He made himself incredibly valuable to the market by studying and staying focused and not being distracted by what's happening with other people and what's going on in their lives. And I'm being one of those distractions, so to speak. I was living my life as an adult and a young professional while he was still in school, struggling to get his degree, not making a lot of money. But again, that delayed gratification of going through med school, keeping his head down, and now he has a pretty good life, I'd like to say. And so, bringing it back to the Jamaica situation here, again, I'm reemphasizing the context of these young professionals' jobs is very, very important, because you got to understand also what you're going into and what you predict what your life is going to be like. And there's nothing wrong with having an art major and you have this passion for doing painting or a musician or whatever it is, and that is a different road financially than somebody who is going into equities or somebody who's going into the medical field and wanting to become a doctor, or who's going to become a lawyer. And even with a lawyer, that's another situation of delayed gratification and getting the return on your investment after being in school for so long and passing the bar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, again, even somebody coming out of school with one of these, let's say, a traditionally high-paying first job experience, the likelihood of you coming out, and I don't know these pay scales. I have no idea what the pay scales here in Jamaica, but my assumption is, like, you're getting paid more as a recent college grad than somebody who has a high school degree or somebody who doesn't have a high school degree. That's my assumption here. And I think it's safe to say that you are going to be valued, your skill set, your academic experience and what you've studied in school is going to be just weighed more than a counterpart who doesn't have those types of skills, right? And that type of degree. And that's just the world that we live in. And so even with that being true, you still, I don't think the market is going to value you at a level in which you're going to be able to afford to buy $250,000 apartment in prime downtown Kingston or wherever it is in Kingston. And we can go into the math of like down payment, mortgage rates, and we can bring up the Excel spreadsheet at some point in time, and we can go through that math and see if that even makes sense for you as a young person to buy a home and to tie yourself down financially for 15, 30 years and having this over your shoulders. And do you even know if this is the career that you're going to be in 5 years, 10 years from now? And I can tell you the amount of people who have friends that I have who say started out as a nursing degree and putting themselves in all this debt, then went into banking, and then is an artist now, which is kind of the exact opposite of the cycle that I just explained, is mind-blowing. I have one of my best friends, he's actually he's like a well-renowned, famous artist. And I even saw one of his installations when I was in South Africa a couple of years ago. He's who I'm talking about. He started out in a nursing program. He was in Hofstra University, which is a private university on Long Island in New York. I'm talking about like $40,000, $50,000 a year. Then he ended up going to another school upstate to be a nurse. And then he didn't want to do that. Then he went into banking and he did that for a few years. And this is all happening in his 20s, right? All happening in his 20s. And then out of the blue, he just starts painting. And he was a struggling artist for many, many years, but he believed in himself. And then now out of nowhere, this guy is doing like amazing, amazing things. And if I remember, I'll definitely share his Instagram of his artwork. And I'm just so proud of him. My point in telling you this story is that, as a young person, and I'm not trying to be just flappant with it, but it's just the reality. It's just like, you really don't know what you want at 22. You really aren't who you are going to become. And hopefully you go on a journey of intention of figuring out who you are and who you want to become and what you were put here on earth to do and can contribute to society. And to tie yourself down to a home that you may be in a position to barely afford and to have this burden over your head. And I know it sounds like I'm being preachy and like in my head, I'm like overthinking, like I'm trying not to be, but it's just like one of those things. It's like, you have to ask yourself, the question is like, is this financially responsible to do this at this stage? And we'll get into this further as we get further into this video. Right. And this is just, and everybody has their different goals in life and different things that they want to do. And so I get that. And I'm not trying to impose my views or impose my experience on anyone, but perhaps bring a different perspective to the situation as it relates to what I've experienced and what I've seen work and what doesn't work. So let's keep going with the video. I have a lot more to say on the affordability, of course, but then also like the luxury aspect, right? And let's keep going here. Let's keep going here before I keep going these tangents.
Minister announced a revised First Step housing program to address the housing crisis. The National Housing Trust will be building one-bedroom apartments in or near urban centers, especially as starter homes for young professionals. People like Lauren, Brianna, and Michael may finally be able to buy one of the 11,000 housing units coming onto the market every year. Giovanni Dennis for All Angles.
Hello, Mr. Williams says, what was he saying? Do what you can with what you have. I remember when I was house hunting, right? One realtor carried me up on one cemetery. I am not lying. I'm not talking about one small cemetery I did thrown for your veranda and it's just rows and rows of graves. I was getting poltergeist vibes. Next thing, Dopico carried me away. So I did not buy that house. Joining me in studio to talk about their their journey. Has it ended yet? Has it not? Are they still on it? We have with us Chartered Accountant Travis Rowe. We also have with us Sunil Smith. She's a Program Manager and Business Development Officer. Joel McIntyre in studio with us. Great to have you all. Thank you so much. So let's see who has a house. No, one hand. Okay, well, let me ask you to start us off, Travis. How difficult or not was it?
Well, it really was a mixed bag. Certain aspects were easier than I thought, and certain aspects were a bit torturous, to be honest.
What was easy?
So the easiest parts were actually interacting with the financial institution. I think a lot of young people have this fear or aversion towards going to financial institutions and reaching out. But even the process of getting your pre-approval was pretty quick. And I think it is the case with most financial institutions. And that's the first major hurdle that I encourage all people to overcome as quickly as possible.
So you're how old now?
I'm 25 currently.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, people, goals. Housing goals here. Okay. What about you, Joel?
I am still in the search. I think it's...
Stop before you go any further,
Sure.
because you're actually searching.
Yes.
Because some of the people I've been speaking to over the past couple of weeks say, look, they're so frustrated, they're so demoralized, and not even search.
I can say I'm still in the search. Search so far as to one time I thought going back to St. Elizabeth to buy a piece of land to develop on was the way to go. And I said, okay, no, there are no opportunities back there for jobs. So might as well try to find something here. And the search has been tedious. It's been difficult. I share the same sentiment with a lot of the graduates who say it's probably better to rent for a very long time and see if we can find something because the rent is overall cheaper for them.
Wow. What about you, Sonia?
Well, for me, there was a very short stint that I was actively searching. To be very
short?
About a year.
Okay. Not too short.
I think for me, the process and the depth of my process involved speaking to a rep at, two banking institutions. I didn't speak to anyone from NHT, honestly. I had most of the money at the time, but then my priorities got rearranged and I stopped. But by and large, I think that owning a home in some sense is a little bit better than renting.
Yes.
Right? I have a friend who spoke to me while I was in my active searching, and she's saying, you know what? We would have to pay rent either way. And the money that you're paying for rent, it would have been nice if it had go towards you owning where you're living. So for me, it's been that sort of conversation and that sort of experience personally.
All right. When we come back after the break, I want to talk about some of what they've seen during their house hunting journey. But a couple of your comments. Dwayne on X says we need to change the culture. Parents need to encourage children to stay home. Build on parents' home where possible. Being independent is overrated and expensive. Best thing I've done as an adult is to live with my parents, save rent, save mortgage, save on bills. Then Mr. Boxfood says it's very hard, interest rates high, prices for the houses just as high. NHT needs to be more flexible in how they disperse loans. Stay tuned, we'll soon come.
All right, so that's basically the gist of it there. And you know, the young man, the 25-year-old dude, he's the only one who owns a home, chartered accountant. I totally forgot that's what he did. But it just kind of goes to my point is like, it really depends on what your degree is in and what profession that you go into and what kind of job that you can get and how high in demand that position that you have is and what the market is willing to give you. And I have no idea how much these young people get paid. To me, they seem very bright. They seem smart. They seem super, super capable. And I don't know if I don't think they're the folks who were saying on the voiceover, they were talking about wanting to purchase these homes in these prime locations in Kingston. I don't know what their ambitions are, but I do think it's like, and I'm always I know a lot of people don't like when I do this, but like I'm definitely gonna always compare back to New York and Brooklyn. And I never lived and worked in Brooklyn. I never worked in New York. I never worked for a corporation or anything like that, or trying to climb the corporate ladder. All I can do is relate to what my friend's experience has been in that regards. And, coming out of college, everybody had roommates. Like, everybody had roommates. And it's just like, you're not going to start out at the top. And they weren't living in the best neighborhoods. They were taking long commutes. And to me, it's like, it's just part of the process of growing up and becoming an adult. And I'm not sure where this is coming from. And it's just, maybe this is just an isolated report. I don't know if all young people are feeling like this. And again, as I opened up with, like, I'm not trying to discourage young people from being homeowners or anything like that. But I'm really saying two things at the same time. Like, one is, really consider, like, is it a smart move to be in your early 20s to lock yourself into a 15 or 30-year mortgage in a particular location at a particular house? It could be great. In 10 years, 15 years, you sell it and you make all this return on investment. So that, obviously, best case scenario, it works. Or maybe you keep it in your family. To me, those are like the positive things. Everything goes right, and it works out great for you and your family. On the other side of that coin, it's just like, also, we talk about, let's go into $250,000 place, right? What would we say? 20% down payment. So that's $50,000 US. We should probably bring up a spreadsheet here so I don't have to do this all by myself. Let's see, average mortgage rate in Jamaica. You're looking at 10.5%. Is this right? 10.5% home ownership. Okay, let's go with that seems very high. All right, let's go with 10%. All right, 250,000. 20% down. Down payment equals, boom. All right, let me bring this up so you all can see what I'm doing here. So down payment. So you have a principal of 200,000 left. Let's see if I got that right. Yep. Let's see what else they got here. Average. I feel like 10%, 10.5% is like really high. Let's go to Sagicor here. I mean, I could be wrong. That seems like a lot. Sorry, I should have had this done before. What year is this? That's 2022, 6.5%. I know that's not what you're getting here. 6.9%. All right, I'm gonna do this math some other time. I should have been a little bit more prepared. But anyway, so 50,000 that then you also get 50,000 down payment. You get the NHT, which is 50,000. Your monthly payment, 30 years. Let's say the monthly payment is 2,000. I guess my point here is 8 to 9% is normal. Hold on, let's see here. Sorry, I just brought up a mortgage calculator. Let's do 9%. let's just leave it at that. Property tax is much lower here. I think it's, let's go 0.5. 30-year term. You're looking at $37,000 February 2055. So this would be 629 times 150. So according to this, that doesn't sound right. I would say, like, let's do 200,000. I think $200,000 a month would be a little bit more realistic. 200,000 Jamaican dollars for your mortgage, coming in at, let's say, 20%. I guess it's hard to say. I don't know how much they make, so it's just hard to say how much these guys are taking out. But I would venture to say, like, a responsible amount that you would pay towards, like, your rent or your mortgage would be 30% of whatever it is you're making, right? I think we can all agree on that. That's kind of like the norm in terms of being, like, financially responsible. And so continue along this point of, like, it's more along the lines of freedom. That's the main point that I'm making here, is that, you know, obviously in doing this, you're going to be giving up a level of freedom, and you're going to be committing to this mortgage for a long period of time. And maybe that's the way people want to live their lives, and that's cool. You know, and then perspective, right? I'm a 40-year-old male that's single with no children, no wife, no fiance, nothing like that, right? And so there is in my mind, there's like a higher sense of appreciation for having a certain level of freedom that I've had for let's call it, for the last 20 years of my adult life, right? And I appreciate that freedom. It's giving me the ability to grow, mature, to learn, and to, as I said before, figure out myself, figure out who I am, figure out what I want to do. And I couldn't imagine having gone on this journey while also having a long-term financial responsibility over my head. And this is also coming from a person, and this is just my mentality and approach to finances and money. This is also coming from a person that doesn't carry a credit card debt, never have. If I can't afford it in cash, and I can't afford it in real life. And not to say that I don't use a credit card or anything like that, but I don't keep a balance. And that's just kind of my relationship with money, my relationship with credit. And 100% comes from my dad, without question. He never had a credit card growing up, or when I was growing up and when he was an adult. And so this is my relationship with money. This is my relationship with finances. And so different perspective, like I'm saying. And there is again, a high respect, high level of freedom that I appreciate, and not having certain financial burdens over my head. Albeit, of course, in a few years when I'm ready and have my partner and I want to have my family, whatever it is, we're going to do that. You know, we're going to get the mortgage, we're going to build a house, whatever it is. But for me right now, I'm even renting now. And again, I don't want to have that burden over my head right now, because I'm not at a phase in my life in which that is necessary. And I also look at my friends. I have friends who are married, and I have friends who are not married, who are doing exceptionally well. I mean, these are my best friends, and they did everything right. We all went to the same school. We all went to Albany, our upstate schools. Let's say that. We all went to great schools, you know, not Harvard, not Yale, but like we went to good colleges, right? And we did everything right. We got the good grades. We stayed out of trouble. We got our first jobs. We moved up the ladder. We worked hard, did all these things throughout our young adult lives. And even my friends who are doing exceptionally well, I'm talking about, they are in, like, I would say top 1-2% of earners globally, like without question. They're doing phenomenally well, right? And they have chosen not to own homes, and they could buy a home tomorrow. They could get a bank would love to see them come into one of their institutions to purchase a home. But there is like a level of freedom that comes with renting. And as the young lady said in the interview that she was doing, it's just like, yes, does it make more sense to own something and instead of renting? Maybe, but there also comes a lot of responsibility in being a homeowner. Like when something is broken or needs to be fixed, like that's on you. And then you have this, and I'm assuming, most people aren't going to be paying cash for these things. They're going to have a mortgage, they're going to be paying monthly payments, and you have this over your head. And, God forbid you take some sort of financial hit. And what if you're unable to afford the mortgage? If you're renting, you can just go to a smaller home or move back in with your parents if they're still around, or if they have a home, that sort of thing. You have a little bit more options and a little bit more flexibility. Again, I'm not trying to impose this on young people. I'm just trying to bring different perspective, different perspective and different ways to look at this. And I think there are huge advantages to renting. And I also know people who have gone down this path and have purchased a home. And I've seen it personally with friends on Facebook, and I've also seen it in YouTube videos where people completely regret becoming homeowners because of this burden and this responsibility that they have over their head. And perhaps they made a mistake in terms of over leveraging themselves or purchasing in a neighborhood that they couldn't necessarily afford to be in the first place, but they pushed through. And their lives have essentially turned into working towards paying this monthly mortgage and keeping up the house. And a lot of these folks, they also have a spouse, they have children as well. And so again, another layer of responsibility. I don't know the young folks that were in this interview, whether they have children or anything like that, or they are responsible to people outside of themselves. But all of these factors need to be taken into consideration when you are deciding to take on $250,000 US loan over your head or whatever it is. And maybe it should be more of along the lines of 100,000 or 125,000 as opposed to $250,000. And we can get into that discussion shortly. And so again, when we are talking about, especially with young people, buying a home and that being this, and I'm not saying it's not important. I think it's very, very important. It's one of the biggest, and I want to make sure like I let everybody know that I understand the magnitude of what it means to own a home. But essentially it is the owning property, owning a home, especially your first home, is one of the biggest opportunities to earn generational wealth and be able to pass on this asset to the next generation. So I get it. I understand it. What I'm advocating for here is it's like, essentially making sure that you're not putting the cart before the horse, and you're not putting yourself in a financial situation that you find yourself in 3, 5, 10 years from now that you really didn't anticipate. So all these things to take into consideration, and learning from others' mistakes who, again, were very, very happy when they first purchased their homes and they thought this was a great thing. I'm a homeowner, and now they can't afford it, because it's more than just having that thing over your head. And even with me, like as I continue to rent right now, I'm perfectly comfortable. Would I like to own my own place? Yeah, definitely at some point, but I'm good right now. I mean, I'm so good. I know that's going to come at some point. I will have my own place, and maybe I'll build my own house. That's a goal that I have of myself. But I want to do it right, and I want to be financially responsible about doing that. Going back to my other friend, who is the initial friend that I just told you about, he's single, he's not married. And again, he can buy a place, right, if he wants. And I have another friend, same thing, doing very well, doing exceptional for himself. And he's married, has children, and it's just better for him to rent, and it's just like he's making that decision. And again, both these folks can go tomorrow to the bank and get any kind of home that they want. But for them, and I haven't really spoke to them directly about this, but like this is my assumption, like with these two friends, as to why they didn't buy, is because they're doing well in their careers, they have the freedom, and mind you, one of the friends, they actually bought another property upstate, and they're doing like a cabin or something like that. So it's just, and I consider them to be very financially responsible individuals, very smart individuals, and I look up to them in different ways. And so again, not imposing my opinion, not imposing and telling you what to do as a young person, something to take into consideration, something to take into great consideration. The second aspect, the second point in all this I want to make is the location, and again, I think it is a bit ridiculous to think that you should be able to afford a place from your first job in the highest and most prime real estate locations in Kingston, perhaps in Jamaica. And it's something, and they use, the reporter used the right word. It's aspirational. It's aspirational. And again, I don't know what these folks do. These are not the folks who are sitting at the desk. These are the folks who were on the voiceover. I don't know what they do. I don't know what their profession is. I don't know where they went to school. I'm assuming they went to school, college, that is, here in Jamaica. And it's like, what kind of job do you have? And what kind of value are you bringing to that company? I'm assuming they all work for somebody. I'm assuming they're not entrepreneurs and they're starting their own business or anything like that. So that's my assumption here. And are they bringing, and can they bring a level of value to the market that would command such a high salary? And I don't know what those salaries are. I have no idea. And to me, it's like, if you're looking at the Halo luxury place, the way I would look at it is like, someday, one day, I'm going to be able to afford that. Not right now at 22 or 25 or whatever it is, but one day I will. I'm going to work very hard towards achieving that. And as the report rightfully said, that we do have a housing shortage in Jamaica in a big way. I say that about Negril. That's obviously obvious with Montego, with Kingston, as the report's just saying. I talked about the St. Thomas development in Suncoast. The demand for that development is very high because the housing it's so neat. The demand is just so high because we're not building homes at a rate that is sufficient to the demand that's there. And because of that, the prices are going high. And somebody said it in the comments here, is that Jamaica pricing is overvalued. Is undervalued. And it really, 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 really is. And the pricing for these homes, I believe, are going to continue to go up. They're going to continue to go up. And so don't think that you as a young person in 10 years from now, and hopefully you'll be in a position in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, whatever your goal is and your horizon is, that you'll be able to afford a place of this nature. But if the last 5-7 years are any indication of what is going to happen in the future, you cannot think that the prices are going to remain the same. And so, to me, the mindset that should be adapted of achievements and being able to do great things is that you want to put yourself in a position to be able to afford these places at some point in time. And the question should be, is how do I do that? How do I either attain the skills necessary to be paid that amount by different companies in order to command/demand the salary to be able to afford not only this home, and I know we're talking about homes, but it should be beyond that. It should be, I want to be able to travel the world. I want to be able to give back to my community. Or I want to be able to build this school, whatever big, lofty dreams that you have. And they should be big. They should be lofty. They should be gargantuan. And you want to be able to put yourself in a mindset to, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure this out at some point in time. And it shouldn't be, I know I'm sounding so preachy, but I think it's a poor mindset to be in a position, especially as a young, smart, ambitious, capable person, that this expectation is that somebody should give something to you. Whether that somebody is an NHT or another government or anything like that. And it's just the reality of the world that we live in today. And this is not unique to Jamaica. This is not unique to Jamaica. Same thing is happening in the United States. Same thing is the Wall Street. I was going to bring it up. the Wall Street Journal just came out with a report talking about Miami's starter home prices are averaging $500,000 for Miami, which is insane. It's an insane number. And so when I like look out, and I'm essentially paying attention to like two main markets, things that are happening in the U.S., New York, Miami, Florida, and then all over here in Jamaica, and you realize that like these are the norms. I don't see any advantage to thinking that these prices are going to come down. There's also no indication to give us that these prices are going to come down. There just isn't. The realtor talked about the cost of construction and the cost of home building is astronomical. And that's one of the main driving points, on top of demand, of course, one of the main driving points as to why homes are becoming more and more and more expensive. And so if we accept this reality, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't, that these are the new norms, that a $500,000 medium average price point for a starter home in Miami is the norm and is going to be the norm. These are the cards that you're dealt. Now what? What do we do? What do we do? And there are going to be a set of people that are going to be complain. They're going to say, woe is me. This is unfair. And I agree with you. It is unfair, but it's also like a so what? It's also a so what, because there's going to be another set of people. All right, these are the cards I've been dealt. Time to go to work. Time to go to work. And to me, these are the people that are going to do well in whatever market that there is. And I want to be very, very specific about the context in which we are talking about this. This is young people. This is young professionals. These are young college grads, right? We're not talking about affordable housing here, which was the majority of what we talk about on this channel. That's not what we're talking about. We're literally talking about the Halo luxury development on Waterloo Road in Kingston, right? And so this is the context. I know a lot of people are coming in the middle, but I just want to make sure that this is the context in which we're talking about here. And so to me, as a young person, if you're watching this and you're part of this conversation, you got to get to work. You got to get to work. It's like you got to figure out, if you're going to be a 9-to-5 corporate person, great. That's what you're comfortable with. You like the predictability of it. You got to be the best. You got to be the best at the end of the day, because the expectation cannot be that somebody's going to come save me. The expectation cannot be some government agency is going to give me some sort of handout. It cannot, because there's no reason to think that. And then also, it's just like I feel like you're wasting time and energy. And perhaps by some stretch of our imagination, some magic, that there is some sort of government handout in however many years, wouldn't you rather be in a position of being extremely strong and having pushed forward and gotten your own and then get that? Which again, I don't think is going to happen. So it's I understand it's not the easiest position to be in as a young person, but at the same time, it also is a great position to be in. I think it's a really, really great position to be in. If you're in your early 20s, to have this long road to look ahead for you, to be ambitious and to achieve these great things of being a part of these apartments or wherever have you. And like the realtor said, I forget exactly what he said, but basically you can't afford Waterloo Road in Kingston. We got to go on the outskirts. And it's just a reality. And one day you will get there. But it's you're gonna have to work very hard towards that. And again, make the assumption that nobody's gonna help you. It's this reality. Hopping back to Miami, it's kind of the same thing. Average home price, starter home prices in Miami, $500,000. Wall Street Journal, right? Let me see if I can bring it up real quick. Yeah, I don't have I thought I had that. Maybe it was on my phone. I had a subscription. Anyway, this is it. $1 million homes skyrocket in Miami as starter properties go extinct. Single-family homes priced below $500,000 are getting harder to come by as wealthy buyers drive up demand for high-end homes. And to me, it's like Miami's gonna be Miami. Miami's gonna Miami at the end of the day. And I have no reason to go to Miami or want to move there or anything like that. But if I was somebody in the market, it's just like I'm gonna have to move outside of Miami. If I'm gonna go there for a job or start a company or whatever it is, and I can't afford to buy a $500,000 or $1 million home or whatever it is, you're gonna live in Fort Lauderdale, you're gonna live in Boca or wherever it is outside of being in the mix, so to speak. And again, that's just the reality. That's just the reality. Is just like you can't afford it. And maybe maybe you're somebody who's worked their whole life as opposed to somebody who's coming out of college and you work very hard and you've put in all these years, you've paid your taxes, you have your retirement savings coming up and yada yada yada. And you're in a much worse position. And that's what I'm saying for young people. It's like it's a good position to be in. I mean, because you'd rather be in a position like this in your early 20s or mid 20s or whatever have you, than being somebody that's, say, my age, 40 or 50 years old, whatever it is, who's trying to get in. So you have a position of strength in that regard. Let's get to some comments here. I know I've just been going. All right, sorry. I'm gonna start from the bottom coming up. Let me scroll up. Let's be fair here. Random comments here. Sorry, I didn't really catch any of these. I mean, why is no one complaining about the price of cars in Jamaica? But they're complaining about real estate. They're purchasing those expensive cars and not complaining. Real estate is undervalued in Jamaica. Yeah, I mean, the pricing of cars is directly relevant to the price that you pay for it, like say in the United States and wherever it's being shipped from, because as we know, you're paying 100% duty on cars. Yeah, what's also funny, and I think that's also what's playing into this. And mind you, this is like perfectly in line with a video that I have coming out today. Let me see. I'm gonna post this so you guys can be on this. I'm premiering a video at 2:45. We are getting off at 2:45 because we got to go watch this video. All right, so we got a 20 minutes. I know this is like a very engaging conversation, but I want to bring you all into this conversation. So we can get through some comments here. So that's a video I'm premiering in the next 20 minutes. And it's literally talking about exactly what we're talking about. Well, about to get into right now, which is invisible wealth versus flashy wealth. And I think this is what's playing into a lot of this is just this social media and people living certain lifestyles on the internet and people feeling disenfranchised. And it could be real disenfranchised. I'm not saying that's not a reality for some people, but Eileen, you're saying the right thing. Like I've never seen, and I think this is a fact, there has never been this many supercars in Jamaica. There has never been this many supercars in Jamaica. I'm talking McLarens, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsches are like Honda Civics out here. It's crazy the amount of supercars that are out here in Jamaica. And it looks like this LA lifestyle in so many respects. And I feel like there's more supercars coming that we have no idea about. But it's just like a very egregious showing off of wealth. And egregious is probably the wrong word. It's definitely the wrong word to use. But it's in the context of people seeing this sort of in-your-face wealth and why not me? How come I can't afford that? And it's just like, man, don't get caught in that. That's a dangerous thing to do. It's a dangerous situation to compare yourself to others, and you don't know how hard or what they did to get that home, that car, whatever have you. Great conversation that I have with Jamila Souffrant, and I would encourage you in the next 15 minutes, please go check it out. Great conversation. I might push it back. I know there's probably some people waiting there, so we'll see how this goes. I might push that back another 15 minutes to 3 o'clock so we can finish up here, even though I just said we're leaving at 2:45. All right, let's keep rolling here. And then says, I see your point, Throp. Besides floor plan and square footage, etc., pricing makes sense. Takes time to build a financial foundation. A few investments in basic real estate can lead to larger luxury investments. Johnny Johnson says, I have 5 academic degrees, MBBS, MD, PhD, BS, MS, Reverend Doctor. I can do it all over. If I can do it all over, I'd become an NFL, NBA rapper, dancehall artist. They make multi-millions. I don't know about that. I used to say the same thing. Like I used to think like I could I was very gifted athletically, like in football. Like I thought that was going to be my thing, American football, that is. And I mean, your career is like 5 years. Your career is like 5 years, and that's it. Yeah, you'll make the millions. You'll make however many millions, and you know, I know a lot of these contracts that they're getting now compared to when I would have been in my prime is very different, much higher. But that's it. That's it. And I think this is also a lesson in patience as well. And we got to remember that the average person makes the large majority of their income from the age of 45 to 60. 45 to 60, right? That's when you make most of your money during your life. I'm 40 years old, and I think I'm going to track along that line of like just kind of the way I look at my career and where things are going, what I'm setting up now, what I've learned, the skills I've attained, the skills that I'm looking to attain in the near future. I'm probably going to fit right very snugly into that category of time frame. And so as a young person, for you to think that you're going to make the majority of your money and I'm not saying that they think this at that young age of 20, 21, very, very small percentage of the human population fit into that category of, as you're saying, Johnny, the professional athlete, the musician. And mind you, a musician, most musicians, it's the same thing with the career of an athlete. 4 or 5 years, that's it. You hot for so long. There are very few artists that have the longevity of a Drake, the longevity of a Jay-Z, the longevity of a 50 Cent. You know what I'm saying? Eminem. Like, these are very minute, very 1% of the 1% successful people, artists who have that longevity. Because think of how many other artists that like are just like a flash in the pan. You know, think about like, and I just know hip hop more than any other category. So forgive me for just saying some names that you may not know. But if we remember the SoundCloud era, which is like 2015, 16, you had like all these artists that were so hot and they just disappeared. Like, I mean, you couldn't not see them anywhere on social media, on MTV, I don't think VH1 was around at that point anymore, but YouTube. They were everywhere. They were doing collabs. I'm talking about Lil Xan, Lil Nas. Some of them I can't even remember. Even like Tekashi 6ix9ine, like flash in the pan, just like super flaming hot, burning, and then they flame out. And these are most Ice Spice, another one, very, very hot. I mean, you don't really hear anything from her anymore, and they have these great songs, but that's it. They've peaked, and these people are peaking at like 24, 23, 22, 27, and then they got to figure out something else. And those millions, it starts to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And I'd rather be in the position of, and this, maybe I don't have much choice, but of slowly earning my money and slowly building my career, slowly building what I'm doing. And to me, it's like, especially as a young person, and then I know it's hard to do because it was hard to do when I was in my early 20s, but thinking long term, thinking in spans of decades instead of months, weeks, or days, and looking out and saying, when I'm 40, I want to be here. When I'm 30, I want to be here. And I think if you do that, you'll be in a much, much stronger position financially, lifestyle, and otherwise than somebody who's thinking of like, how do I get this money now? And Not to say that there aren't people who do well at a very young age. You know, we could talk about the Zucks of the world or the Musk of the world. You know, these people, you know, either never went to college or dropped out, and they just create these amazing products that change the world, right? And these are exceptions to the rules, but they make so much noise that a large amount of people think that could be them as well, where they have exceptional skills and circumstances that have allowed them to achieve what they have. And I think that remains true with the athletes, with the artists, and so on and so forth. And so I'm just encouraging people not to get caught up in that sort of that mindset. All right, let's keep rolling here. All right, Johnny, another one with some math here. Thank you. Correct. With homes, especially loans, principal escrow on a $300,000 loan on $4,000 a monthly mortgage at 6.5% rate, $3,500 a month goes to services for your loan. You'll never pay off unless lump sums. Yep, good point with the math there. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that. Not everybody should be buying. Not everybody should be buying, and this is something that I think a lot of people, especially a lot of young people, need to look into and make sure that they're on strong financial stable ground before they put themselves in a situation. All right, let's keep going here. And then it says, I know a 26-year-old who went into a $250,000 mortgage loans. Parents warned against it, ran into issues 2 years later, wasn't ready financially, agreed, thought, have to think logically. And trust me, like, we also got to think back to the housing crisis. And I think some of these young people will be too young for this to understand what happened during that time. And the banks were this is American US banks. The banks were giving out loans to anybody at that time. And they were giving out loans to people that could not afford these loans. And you got to think, some of those folks, I would venture to guess, a large majority of those folks are still suffering the consequences of that poor financial decision of buying a home that they could not have afforded. And granted, these were predatory loans. And I was going to say not the fault of the consumer, but there is a certain level of accountability that should be taken there. And what happened is that they were reliant upon the mental context of having a fixed rate loan as opposed to a variable adjustable rate loan. And when those kicked in and then they realized those rates went up and they realized that they couldn't afford this loan and they barely could afford it at the initial rate they were paying, then you spread that across thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of homes across America, then you have an implosion and you have a housing and a financial crisis. And it's something to be taken to high consideration and making sure that, again, young people, you're in a strong financial position to be able to really, truly afford the purchase of a home. Javon says 250,000 mortgage is crazy. Is that crazy good, crazy bad? Let me know. I'm not sure what you mean on either side. TDC Consultant says the market is equally as expensive as it is affordable. The target, however, is for people who find those costs not intimidating, which seems to trend towards international buyers. Two, with that established, especially from being construction to build a home with the monies allotted via NHT requires extensive research around function, quality, and value. Three, it's not impossible to do, but sure takes time, and one must factor all the unforeseen negatively and positively. Four, home ownership and renting is the fruit a person's choice that depends on many factors. Both have their pros and cons. Examine what works for you and decide. Great advice. Great advice. TC Consultants hope to work with you in the future. Great advice there. All right, hold on one second. I'm going to move the time of the premiere, and I know people are like kind of waiting in that. Hopefully, they're coming here and joining our conversation here. I'm just moving the premiere time back another. Let's call it 3:15. Sorry. All right, let's keep rolling here. Gareth Jamrock says, I think it depends on each situation. I gambled and lucked out and got in the market at the right time in 2017. Also have 3 rental properties and that are all around 50% positive equity. Good for you. Congrats. That's great. Really, really great. Yeah, timing is great. Timing is important. I mean, like now, another reason, particularly the Miami situation, right? They also have, US has like the same housing shortage, not same, but they have a housing shortage situation as well. And they're getting it on 2 folds, right? They're getting it from the respect that people who own homes now are not willing to sell because they have, let's say, 3% mortgages on their homes that they signed 10 years ago. And if they were to sell their home, they're going to come in at like 7% to buy their new home. And why would they do that? So it's also stifling the movement of the market, and it's keeping the people who own homes to continue to own homes as opposed to sell and get new homeowners into a market. And for those people who are selling their homes to get and buy new homes, whether they're new construction or whatever have you. And then at the same time, they're not building homes fast enough to meet the demands of the market. So it's a multitude of factors that are working against that market. All right, let's keep rolling here. KJ Martin says, even in Kingston, the developments are stuck in specific areas, which drives up the cost. Developers need to expand into communities, but it also could be, and this is also one of the hindrances in certain parts of America. I know California has this issue, but it's housing or development regulations that also slow it down. And I'm not saying these regulations are bad. I'm just saying, because there's some regulations that are important, like environmental regulations, I think are very, very important, but also zoning, getting approval, like all these things, bureaucracy will slow down the process of building homes. However, at the same time, you can't just kind of just open up the barn doors and everybody do what they want and not have regulations, not have reinforcement, not having, to check if electrical is good, the infrastructure is like all these things. Like we want construction to be solid. We also don't want to overdevelop. And so it's a very delicate balancing act. And I always talk about the new building ordinance that's supposed to come here in Westmoreland, particularly in Negril. That's we're hoping for different building regulations that would complement the changing Negril that we're going through right now. And this is a document that we've been waiting for some years at this point in time. But the hope is that this new building ordinance will allow development in Negril to go higher, because we do need to go higher and we do need to supply the housing demand that is very high right now. And that hopefully it'll be a little bit easier. When I say easier, less bureaucratic to get these things done. But that is something that does hinder, and I would presume, I don't know the rules and regulations in Kingston, but I'm sure there are some areas that you can't build, a tower. We're seeing all these great towers go up in Kingston, and there's certain communities that don't allow it. But maybe there needs to be some lobbying to allow that to kind of free up and let the market breathe a little bit more. But then, as we talk about cars, like what is the traffic situation going to be as you become more and more and more dense? But that's a conversation for another time. Currency Walk, market is rough, but as Blacks, we have to build wealth. Owning where you live is the first step. Renting for 40 years at even $1,000 monthly, zero at the end. Buying a home means wealthy in 40 years. Again, I think it depends on how you look at it. And I'm talking from my perspective in terms of being 40 years old And I would rather be in a position like I want to build my home. And I live in country, I live in the Grill. I'm in Westmoreland, Hanover. And so I'm not living in a city, and I'm not trying to buy an apartment or anything like that. And I want to build my home. I've already identified the land and I'm going to build my home. I'm going to own my home outright. Maybe I'll get a construction loan. Maybe I'll have a short 15-year mortgage, like very, very, if I do get a mortgage, to be honest. But for me, I want to own my own home outright. Like the bank doesn't is mine. There is no bank involved and like in a very short period of time. I'm definitely going to use some sort of capital to leverage the construction of my home and everything like that. But that's my goal. So there could be this quantum step. I'm not necessarily doing it the traditional way of home ownership and going to the bank. I could literally do this tomorrow. If I were to call up my banker tomorrow and say, hey, I want a mortgage, it would be more than happy. Oh man, like what do you need? They will come right away and have the documents ready to go. And I'd have that home in a few short weeks, honestly. But I don't want to do that. Again, I don't want that burden over my head. Not right now, not in that way. And I don't want to follow those rules that tell me that I should. But that's just me. That's just me, and this is a much longer road for sure. It's a much longer road. And I'm okay with that. But I think it's going to pay off in the end. And who knows anything can happen tomorrow. Let's keep going here. Keisha says, open a service-based business and work your way to the other side. Stop complaining about the real estate industry. It's not going to change. What needs to change is people's mindset. Fair advice. Excuse me. Programmer Dude says, South Coast Jamaica, St. Elizabeth Parish, serving both locals and tourists, welcoming all new homeowners. Thank you for that. Trevor Black says home and land ownership is a privilege and not a right. JA prices on average are about 400,000% below price of the Caribbean region. As high as it is, it's still a steal. It's still a deal, which is a steal. You're right. You're right. I don't know if it's 400% below, but we are significantly below other Caribbean islands. You can look it up yourself. It's crazy. And I think in a big way, as we talked about in the last few weeks, about all these institutional investors, particularly in the hospitality industry, coming into Jamaica in droves with hundreds of millions and billions of US dollars. I'm sure it's because they see how undervalued our land is when they compare it to other Caribbean islands. Extremely undervalued. And as much as we complain about how high these prices are, there's no indication to show that it's going to go down. None. There's just no evidence of it. Again, anything can happen, sure, but when you look at other markets in the region, we are very undervalued. All right, let's keep going here. Jamaica says, I'm building on my grandfather's land in Little London, Westmoreland. Over the last 10 years, I currently live in London, UK, but I chose to build it out of pocket, even though I can get a mortgage. That's also a way to do it, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. And we see it all the time, right? You're driving on the coastline or even inland and some of the mountains, and you see these half-built homes, and it's people just taking their time, brick by brick, just like Jamaica is doing right now. And people don't want that. People don't want that mortgage over their head. They don't want that responsibility. Every mickle make a muckle, right? And you just, like my dad says that all the time, and you just do piece by piece, and you can do it that way. And I understand some people don't have the patience to do that. Some people don't want to do that. To each his own. FICA says supercar is not owned by Jamaicans. Yes, they are. They very much are owned by Jamaicans. All the supercars that I know of and I've seen, they're all owned by Jamaicans living in Jamaica. I'm talking about McLarens, Cybertruck, Ferrari. Like I said, bunch of I don't know if you consider a Porsche supercar, probably not. But yeah, Lamborghini, all owned by Jamaicans. Like there is big money here, though, for sure. Justin D, wealth not evenly distributed. It's the major problem of our planet at the moment. Yeah, absolutely, especially in America. I believe, like I said this before, I believe they have the biggest wealth disparity in the world when it comes to like I think it was like CEO pay compared to like average worker pay or something like that. Jamaica says, Throp, when the pinnacle is complete, I'm sure we will see a lot more supercars, current 2 McLarens supercars in Jamaica. I'm sure. Like that's gonna be the norm there. I remember the first time I went to Fontainebleau in Miami, speaking of Miami. Man, this is like gotta be over 10 years ago now. And I couldn't believe the supercars that we went for my friend's bachelor party, barely afforded to stay there. It was like 4 or 5 of us in one room. And my friend used to live in Florida. We all were cramped in his Honda Accord. And it's like an old Honda Accord. I believe it was gold Honda Accord that we rolled up to the Fontainebleau. And at the time, they just did like $1 billion worth of refurbishment on the property. And I mean, it was just all athletes, I mean, I don't know if Pinnacle is going to be at that level, but I think that's gonna kind of be the norm there, kind of thing. I could see that happening at least. Anik Dion says we have the same issue in Canada, Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. Property prices are out of reach for most young university grads, especially right out of graduation. I too have chosen not to buy. Yeah, but like it's been like that since I was out of college. It's like I think we millennials, I think we were the first generation that this happened to, where you graduate college and the norm was moving home with your parents, because remember, this was the housing crisis. I graduated in 2006 and we moved, like that was essentially our first full years in our professional careers, was the housing crisis and financial crisis, which of course at the time we didn't have the perspective that we have now. But nonetheless, that's how we were welcomed into the professional working world. And it has forever been our reality since then. So this is nothing new to us at all. This is nothing new to us. And I think folks are having a hard time adjusting to this. I can't even say new reality, but the reality that is. This is the reality. It's just like, unless you're coming out of college in a very, you're going to some of the top schools in the world, in the United States or Canada, wherever it is, and then you're also working for some of the best companies in the world and getting that job. And even some of these degrees are no longer what they used to be. And an engineer, I mean, with AI, like all this is going to change in a few years as well. All these careers and these professions that are highly value skilled skills that you're coming out of college earning 100,000 US, or some people are earning even 200,000, like as an engineer. I know a lot of engineers, like when you start working for Google, Apple, and all these places, all these tech companies, you're making like crazy money. I think that's going to change too. I think that's going to change dramatically. But my point is, that there's a small percentage of the population of recent grads who fall into the category of making 6 figures coming right out of college and coming right out of school, that even those folks, who are making 100, 150,000, whatever it is nowadays, it doesn't make sense for them to own to buy $250,000 property. They have no, unless they're coming from a family that's helped them, they have no savings, So perspective. Thank you, Anik. Jamaica says these young professionals also need to factor in their decision. Is it cheaper to build versus ready home? Good question. Justin D says most record deals with big labels is getting a credit card at 70% interest. The more you know. I believe that these 360 deals, right? Empress Flames, happy Sunday. Fatima Shields, good to see you. Nice to have you on. Jamaica says, Throp, they need to look at Jamaica financial crisis that hit Jamaica under PJ Patterson-led administration known as FinSec 44 plus. Thousands of businesses and banks collapsed. Homeowners lost their houses. I'm not too familiar on that one, but let me screenshot that so I can look into it later. Nicole says there are a number of approved development applications that advance to building permits that don't get built due to land speculation, but updated policies and planning ordinance are required. Yep, thank you for that. Nixon Brown, in Jamaica, all the developments are taking place in Kingston and the North Coast, and the prices are ridiculous. Again, what is ridiculous? What is ridiculous, Nixon? They're higher than they used to be, but with the perspective of where we are in the region in terms of where we fit in terms of pricing, it's getting up there. I will say, I'm not saying this is cheap. Jamaica is not cheap. Jamaica is not cheap, but the market is demanding this. The market is commanding these types of prices. And like I was saying to the young people, if we are, around my age, a little bit older, and we are looking into and wanting to get into this market, again, same advice is like, what kind of mindset do we need to be in to be able to put ourselves in a position to be able to afford these places and get in now while we have the possibility of getting in? Because again, there's no indication that I'm seeing to say or to show that these prices are going to come down. And anything can happen. Let's see what else we got here. Real estate is a great generational wealth builder. Absolutely. One of the best. Oren says, good day, Throp. Happy Sunday. I passed your Travelers Hotel weekly one day. I will stop by. My friend from Brooklyn says she knows you well. Keep up the good job. Thank you very much. Yeah, come in and say hello. TDC Consultant says generational wealth goes far beyond cash and kind, property and assets. The best wealth generationally is embedded in character, self-discipline, patience, gratitude, obedience, kindness, and compassion. Well said. Donna Bryce says Jamaican Chinese families don't believe in mortgage debt. Start small, resell, and move up. That's, again, different relationship with money, different relationship with credit, different relationship with leverage. And it's worth studying these mindsets. It's worth studying these different cultural approaches to money, to mortgage, to debt. And again, in my family, my dad has always been, even to this day, totally against credit cards. Me and my brothers, we have credit card. My dad, I've never known, my dad has never had a credit card his whole life. I don't know if he's watching this, but he could correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm going to ask him. I don't think he's ever had a credit card. He never took out a loan for Travelers. Never took out a loan because he couldn't get one. And he did what Jamaica and who else said this? Oh, sorry. What you're saying right here, Donna. Every mickle make a muckle, and slowly built Travelers. And it was a long and hard way. And it did well for himself. But it was also incredible for us coming in. When I say us, me and my brothers coming in for the next generation, in that we had no debt. We outright owned the property. We had operational debt, of course, as this is part of doing business, but we had no bank loans. We had no mortgage. Even when my dad built his house, same thing, little by little, brick by brick, no loans, no nothing. It's a longer, harder road, but it's a different type of freedom. It's a different type of mindset. My dad also never owned a new car. I've never owned a new car in my 40. Sorry, I shouldn't say he never owned a new car. That's not true. Before I was born, he did. And I think he had one, maybe two new cars when we were kids. And I'm talking about before under 10 years old. And that's it. And every other car was used. And same thing with me. I don't need a new car. I have no ambitions of buying a new car, maybe in the future, but I just don't, it just doesn't appeal to me. It's like, I don't want a car payment. If I can't buy the car outright, now forget it. I don't want these type of monthly payments. And maybe it's not maybe, I know this comes from my dad. And that's me. That's my relationship with loans. That's my relationship with credit, my relationship with money. And everybody's perspective is different. But I just appreciate just having that sort of mental freedom and not like I'm not working towards like or living a life towards paying off for a lifestyle that I can't, in reality, I can't afford, and I love to travel. That's one thing, like that's one of life's greatest joys and privileges is to be able to travel. And I'm able to do that because and do it in a responsible way because like I don't have these things over my head of a mortgage, a car payment, a credit card. And it's a slow moving track. I'm not a rich person at all, but I'm also a person who's very conscious of like how I spend my money. Like, and I think it's more so like the day-to-day situation. And again, it's tracking what I'm talking about now is tracking very, very, very nicely with the video premiere that I have coming out at 3:15, which I think might need to put back. I'm putting it in the comments. So make sure right after this, we're going to hop on to that. But again, my point in saying this is like, this is my relationship with money. This is my relationship with credit. This is my relationship with mortgage, and everybody's relationship is different. I think it's just important to understand yourself, understand your expectations, and just be intentional about these things that you want to achieve and that you're going after, and understand the consequences and the give and take of doing these things, because there's a give and take with living the way I do as well, and it's just making sure that you are, I think it's a good idea to make sure that you are aware of these consequences and accepting these consequences, as opposed to, as an example earlier, given somebody takes out a $250,000 mortgage and then 2 years later, things hit the fan. All right. Big Bolt said Jamaica real estate is not properly regulated. Some places are overpriced while others are way overpriced. Watching from Canada. I mean, the market decides the price, right? There is no price regulation in Jamaica, and you can put whatever price that you want out there. And if somebody's willing to pay for it, then so be it. And then if you're too high, then it's probably going to sit on the market for a long time. All right, let's keep going here. Justin D says, Throt brought up a good point. The rise of CEO's pay since 1980 is 992%, but the average worker's pay has gone up 27%. Nixon Brown says, when you look on Jamaica GDP, the price for property isn't undervalued. They are overvalued. Jamaica has the lowest GDP in the Caribbean, next to Haiti, and the lowest wages. You're talking about apples and oranges here. Very, very different. You're equating two different things. We're talking about the value of land, and it doesn't necessarily equate. GDP doesn't necessarily equate to the value of land, or how much somebody is making. It's really the perception of what people are willing to pay for in a given area, in a given region or country. Justin D says there's a guy, actually two of them in the U.S. One, I believe, is the president, and the other is the guy named Trump. They're helping to crash the economy, so be careful. Go on, you got me. I'm trying to stay out of the political stuff, but you got me there, Justin. Ann Smith says, I live in Florida in Palm Bay. They have overbuilt the area and brand new homes are here empty. Why? Because the interest rate is high. I hope Jamaica is not on that trajectory. Anna says, Thought you can do the premiere another day or next week, not to pressure yourself. Nah, I want to get this out the way. I wanted to do this since yesterday, but I had a lot of technical difficulties. No, premiere's coming, and then people can watch it during the week as well. Excuse me. All right, last few, and then I think we're gonna make the 315. TDC Consultant says builder grade homes carry a markup primarily because contractors are operating businesses too, with operating costs and people to pay. So whilst the actual build cost may be lowered, two, one has to factor in the operating costs, marketing, etc., into the final costing for a lot of these homes that will drive up the price. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, we're gonna make the 315. We're definitely gonna make that. But I do want to take the opportunity to talk about our sponsor as we're talking about buying homes and the affordability of young people. As I mentioned before, our sponsor today is Suncoast Beach Club in St. Thomas. And if you're not familiar with them, they are the only, I'm gonna play their video in a second. They are the only, maybe not the only, but definitely the biggest development in St. Thomas and the only large scale development in that area, the first of its kind. And I had the privilege of working with them last year and being at their ribbon cutting ceremony. And I just want to show a quick clip of the opening clip of the video and talk a little bit about their, how do I make myself disappear? No. All right, there we go. Talk a little bit about that property. So 1 sec, we'll be right back.
St. Thomas is no longer the forgotten parish. St. Thomas is now in the forefront of the minds of not just the people, but of investors.
To be classed as the forgotten parish, this is something that helps people never forget you again.
There's literally hardly any land for sale now in St. Thomas.
Now you're 12 minutes to Kingston. By the time you get on the highway and drive, you're 7 minutes to Harbour.
It's going to be huge. It's going to be great for the people of St. Thomas.
The longer you wait, the price is good.
Jamaica is at its inflection point where the rate of change is going to happen very rapidly.
Hello, droppers, and welcome back to another real estate tour video. We are here on the other side of the island in beautiful St. Thomas. And for those who are visiting for the first time, a special welcome to you. My name is Winthrop Wellington, and here on my channel, I help you invest and move to Jamaica. And this is one of the premier pieces of content that I'm so excited to share with you today. I'm here at Suncoast Beach Club in St. Thomas, as I mentioned, at the ribbon cutting ceremony. Today, I hope to learn even more about this development, even though I've had Kevin Frith, the CEO of this development, on the podcast twice, once on my live stream and also once on the podcast itself. So I'll make sure we link those below and put up the information link up here somewhere. Should be a very, very exciting day ahead. I'm looking again to learn a little bit more about this development, but also more about St. Thomas and where it's coming from and where it's going. It's a really, really exciting time for Jamaica. This is the first of its kind, especially in this part of the island. There's a lot of exciting things happening in Jamaica, and I'm just very happy and proud to be a part of this ribbon cutting ceremony today. And I'd also like to get your thoughts on what you think about this development happening on this side of the island. Are you excited about it? For some reason, don't want it. I'd like to hear your input. But nonetheless, I really do hope you enjoy this video. So sit back, relax, and come and join the phone with me.
what does this property really?
All right, and that's the St. Thomas video. I just put it in the comments there. So if you haven't seen that video, I would definitely recommend you checking it out. It has not all, but has a lot more information than the little intro that we have there. And this is the brochure. And I just want to, as we talk, we built a lot of context in pricing. And I know a lot of people were asking about square footage and what is included and that sort of thing in the homes that we were talking about, the apartments, I should say, that we were talking about. And this is obviously a little bit different than the apartment buildings on Waterloo in Kingston. This is outside of Kingston. This is in St. Thomas. And phase 2 that you're looking at over here is overlooking the water. And then phase 1 is on the other side of this road. And these are townhomes, so you get a lot more space than you would with the apartments that we were talking about before. And let me go down they have duplexes. That's what I visited. I visited one of the duplex apartments. And this is the layout. Let me know if you want a copy of this. I'd be more than happy to send it to you. If you email me at throp@thropmedia.com, I can send you this brochure for you to take a look at. And I always encourage you, hey, compare apples to apples in all of this, in any type of investment that you're looking to do, whether you're looking to retire, vacation home, whatever have you. I think it's very, very important to compare and see what is actually out there on the market. And you see all the different amenities that are there. They got a pickleball court, tennis court, basketball court, walking, running path, which I certainly appreciate. And as I mentioned, it's 15 minutes from downtown Kingston, 10 minutes from Norman Manley International Airport. So, if you're somebody that travels a lot and is always on a plane, 10 minutes to the airport, which is a great advantage to have. Here are the square footage. The lot sizes are 7,400, 2,000. Sorry, I'm looking at phase 3. First phase is 1,800 to 9,400 square feet. And the unit size is 1,500 to 2,200 square feet, phase 1. And then it goes on from there. And let's get down to the pricing so you can see. So the townhouse end units are going for $500,000 US. The middle units are going for $420,000 US. The 2 bedrooms are going for $520,000 US, and the 3 bedrooms are going for $580,000 US. And these are the requirements for deposit and payment structure, and you can go through it. So I would, if you're at all interested, and just like even the young person said in the interview, is you want to start talking to people and talking to different institutions, especially if you've been away from Jamaica for some time. And it costs you nothing to pick up the phone and have a conversation or set up a meeting, whether it's Zoom or next time that you're in Jamaica, to sit down with some of these institutions and take some time out of your vacation or time out of your day to learn a little bit about the process and what it takes, and to get a mortgage. And then you also have places like Suncoast that, again, it costs you nothing to pick up the phone, hear directly from the horse's mouth what does entail, what's happening, where are they with the construction process. And so I would encourage you to reach out to these folks at suncoastbeachclub.com, or give them a call at 876-216-5454 and learn a little bit more about what they have to offer. So thank you so much, Suncoast Beach Club, for being today's sponsor of the live stream here. And I think it was just so appropriate for our discussion here and talking about the affordability of a home for young people. All right, so we are coming to an end because we are going to go over to the premiere at 3:15. And let me see if this even makes sense to do. It's so late in the day. Today, Sunday. Yep, it still makes sense just looking at it now. All right, 3:15. I know a lot of people were waiting. I kept pushing it off. I got a few little questions here. Let me put the video here so people can go right into this. I wish there was a way to just port you guys over there, but I think everything's all lining up, and I didn't mean for it to. But the conversation that I had with Jamila, she's a personal finance expert, and she's very much about the FIRE movement, the financial independence, retire early movement. I don't know if people are familiar with that. And she just does a great job of breaking it down. She came out with a book, and I should have the book here. I'll have it right here. One second. I love having like these super experts come on the podcast to talk about, especially like with anything finance, and just getting super granular and in the weeds about these things. And this is her book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, a step-by-step guide to achieving wealth and happiness. That's her book. And so you can get this on Amazon, like all these different places. And she goes through it. Really, really super, super smart person with a very interesting background in being born in Jamaica, but for the most part, growing up in the United States. And I love the conversation, and it's well worth your time checking out. So we're literally from this live stream, we're going over there. Click the link that I just put in the description, and we can hop over there. Let's close out with a few comments, and then we will go over to the premiere. We'll hang out there for a little bit. We'd love to have you guys all over there. Trisha Brumfield says, wealthy people use their debt to make money. You just have to be responsible and educated about your finances. You have a few. Having credit card is not a bad thing. You just have to be responsible about how you use it. I have several credit cards and pay them off every month. With that said, I get a lot of perks, are very rewarding for me. Same here. Like I have them all. I am a aficionado, and so are all of me and my friends. We are credit card enthusiasts, and a lot of the trips that you see me take and stay at these very, very nice places is because of the strategic decisions that I make with how I spend my money, and of course paying off my credit card every single month, and also getting the right credit cards. So I'm with you on that, 100% with you on that. I'm not against credit. I'm not against credit cards. I'm against over leveraging and being just not financially smart with these things. And if I can't pay off my credit card at the end of the month, then I'm doing something wrong. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but 90% of the time, that thing is paid off. And I'm not one that likes staying in credit card debt. And like you said, I use it to my advantage, and very much so use it to my advantage. Trisha continues, debt can also be a very good asset to have if you know how to make it work for you. We read this comment, says, wealthy people use their debt to make money. You just have to be responsible and educated about your finances. I think that was the last one. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not against it. It's just using it in the right place at the right time. And, for me, using it to live a lifestyle that I truly can't afford, I'm just not going to do it. It's just, I'm not comfortable with that. Again, like I said, like if I can't afford a car, I can't afford a car. Like that's it. I'm going to save up and I'm going to purchase it outright. That's just my relationship with money, and people are different. And I'm not saying that to judge anybody or I'm better than anybody. It's not at all. That's just my relationship. Business is a different thing. Have we taken out loans here or travelers? Yes, absolutely. But again, strategically, and mind you, like I'm a finance major. My brother's an accountant. He's a CPA. We're one of the big four firms. My other brother is a IT specialist, and that's what he studied in school. So like I won't say I understand everything about the market or money or anything like that, but we have, I would like to say, at least I can speak for myself, like I think I have a strategic an understanding of money and the market and how it works in a way that I can use it to my advantage, as opposed to the system using me. And I feel like that's what happens with a lot of people, is that the system uses individuals to feed itself. And kind of once you wake up and you realize that that's what's happening, that's what they want you to do. And they want you to have these credit cards so you can go on that luxury vacation or buy that luxury purse or to take out a loan on a luxury vehicle that you cannot afford and you're barely making the monthly payments. And they want you to be in this matrix, and they want you to be in this system. And I think Justin said it before, the system is working exactly the way it was designed to work. And so I'm encouraging people to just be a little bit enlightened about how these things were set up and designed and not to get caught up in it. Eileen says, why do people think Jamaicans don't own anything expensive on the island? It's a myth to think Jamaicans are poor, that foreigners are buying up real estate and cars. It's not so. Yeah. I think a lot of people would be surprised that there are Jamaicans who are doing very well, exceptional in Jamaica. And that's Jamaicans living in Jamaica, making their living in Jamaica. So that does exist very regularly. And I think it's something that we should be proud of more than anything else. Are there foreigners coming here and buying up real estate and apartments and having nice cars? Absolutely, for sure. But make no mistake about it, there are Jamaicans doing just as well or even better as well. Empress Flame says, my credit score has more power than my bank account. I'm 30. Awesome. Good for you. I think that's very, very important. Get that credit score up. The cost of living is extremely high in Jamaica. You need £100 a day to survive living in Jamaica. That is not true. That is so not true. So not true. I don't know where you're. I don't know if and what you consider it costs to live. Are you talking about going out and eating food and buying groceries? But that's just not true. Diane T. Golden says, why would you need 20,000 Jamaicans a day? Not even rich people spend that a day. Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy. That's simply not true. Simply not true. Empress says, I see a global trend of wanting to move abroad, and it has improving my quality of life to travel and live in Jamaica. It's very possible, people. You won't regret it. Well said. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. Why am I recording the conversation? Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there, folks. We are heading over to the premiere. It already started. I'm sorry I'm getting you guys over there late. But please click this link right here in the comment section and head over to the premiere. We will go over and continue the fun there. Thanks for joining this conversation. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your engagement. This was a fun one. I'm sure we'll have conversations of this nature again in the future. No live stream next week. I'm going to be traveling, but I'll make it up for you some way. Maybe during the week or something like that. We'll do a sunset live stream. I've been wanting to do that for a long time, so maybe we'll get that in at some point this week or the following week, I should say. All right, everyone, have a great week. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I will see you over in the premiere. Click that link in the comment section. Won't regret it. See you soon. Peace.